Hello, Eric here. And today I want to show you that there is only one consciousness, or you can only ever know one consciousness. There are not multiple consciousnesses for you to know. You only ever know the one. And I got a thought experiment that I think can show this to you, that can prove this to you. It's actually pretty easy to understand. I don't find this to be all that complicated, but it's just not something that I think most people think about. But let me show you. If you are blind in one or both eyes, and I mean like total loss of sight, you can also think of this the same way for auditory. What I'm about to do, I'm going to do this with sight, because it's easiest to think about it with sight for most people. But you can use your auditory sense because you do have a left and right auditory feed in the same way. So this works for auditory as well. Okay, so what I want you to do is something you've probably done when you were a kid is just close one eye and then kind of rapidly go back and forth between eyes. And you'll see that the feeds, the auditory feeds that you get from one eye to the other are slightly different. Because one eye is looking at one angle, one eye is looking at the other, right? These are different visual feeds. I think I said auditory, my bad. These are different visual feeds. But when you do this, when you have only one eye open, you're seeing it through one consciousness. And it is the same consciousness when you switch eyes. Same consciousness. And in fact, when you open both eyes and the visual feeds are combined, then you still are seeing it through one consciousness. It's different visual feeds. This is a different feed than this. And you might say, well, okay, they're only slightly different though, and that. So it only appears under one consciousness. Well, that's not true either. You could put a separator here and put a circle here and a square on the other side, and it works the same way. Even though you're getting radically different things on one side of the separator to the other, it's still combined into one consciousness. Now, when we have one eye open and the other, and then we open both eyes to combine the feeds, we have a cognition, we have a mind that's very adept. It's very used to having both of these visual feeds at the same time, and it's so adept at this that it can combine them into an easy to understand image. In fact, it's kind of not just easy to understand. It's our default way for most of us to have good vision. It's so adept it even combines it to produce like a three-dimensional visual feed, right? So now I want you to imagine though. Imagine if you were to take the consciousness of someone else and try to put it into your own consciousness. Like assume that there was another consciousness and you were going to put it into yours. What are you actually doing when you do that? Well, I contend that if you were to do this, you're not taking any other consciousness. You're only taking another visual feed, auditory feed, touch feed, all the senses of this other person. You're only taking their sensory feeds and putting them into your and experiencing them at the same time as your own sensory feeds. That's what that means. But what I mean is that's what it means to take someone else's consciousness and put it into yours. But if you notice, if you do that, you're still seeing your feeds and their feeds still in one consciousness. It's still your consciousness. It's still this screen that everything's appearing on. It's just an extra sensory feed that's also appearing on the screen. It might be hard to make sense of too, by the way. The cognition here is not really used to dealing with you know visual feeds that are that different, you know, because your friend might be looking at a whole different set of objects from a whole different angle than you are, you know, so that gets a little, it might be hard to make sense of. It might seem a little jumbled, a little weird to have these overlapping sensory feeds like this, because these are like these two sensory feeds. It's the mind is very used to dealing with these two sensory feeds and combining them into one. Here it is, you know. So it might take time for your cognition, for the mind to get used to such a state. But the point I'm trying to make here is that it's still one consciousness that you're experiencing. All of this still happens on this one screen. It's just more sensory feeds. That's all that's happening. Here's a feed, and then you would have two more feeds, you know, over yonder. See what I'm saying? Now you can also imagine something maybe grander, like you're having a mind-blowing mystical experience, a deep meditation, 5-MeO DMT breakthrough, whatever it is. You're having this amazing mystical experience. Contemplative prayer might be another way to it, and you break through into experiencing all consciousness at the same time. No, you're not experiencing all consciousness at the same time. You're still experiencing one consciousness. It's still one. You're just seeing different sensory feeds. All these different sensory feeds. It's just like having extra eyes. You got this one, but it's all combined. It's combined into these two sensory feeds. There they are. I mean, it's one consciousness. You can only ever experience the one consciousness. And if you try to put another consciousness in there, that's not what you're doing. You're just looking through more sensory feeds. More sensory feeds are coming in. And this is why these mystical experiences are so unexplainable, by the way. This is why they're so hard to make sense of. In the moment, the mind just has to completely let go of making sense of anything, because it's not used to this. It's only used to these two sensory feeds. But in these mystical experiences, you get you can get sensory feeds from the entire universe at once, kind of thing going on. You know, it's just too much. It's the mind does not make sense of that many feeds at a time, of that much information at a time. That's just not what the mind does. You know, it's much more used to and is adapted to the sensory feeds that are going on here. But it's always one consciousness. Always. It's not separate. Can't be separate. You can't feed another consciousness. You can't divide consciousness either. That's another weird one. Like you can't divide it. You know, like if you could divide it, then like this would be dividing it, if anything. But it's not. It's not divided. It's just two different sensory feeds. That's not the same thing as consciousness. It's not divisible. It's not dual. It's not dual. It's one. Well, even that's kind of weird. To even call it one is a little weird though, because it's not an object. You know, like the favorite example. Here it is. A water bottle. This is an object. You know, like here it is. But consciousness is not an object. It's not something that you can point to in the same way. It's the subject. You know, it's what's experiencing. So it's also not one, because it's not a thing. It's not a one. It's not an object. Yeah, it's non-dual. Non-dual is the correct word. It's not two. It's not two. There's not two. You can only ever. It's unified. Got it? Makes sense. Can you now see where a lot of your ideas, a lot of your ideas about consciousness are really wrong. A lot of other people's ideas about consciousness are really wrong. When you get to thinking about it, it's you can clear a lot of this up. So there you go. That's all I have for this video. if you enjoy these kinds of explanations and maybe even enjoy more technical and rigorous stuff, like I've been doing a lot of much more technical and rigorous stuff with uh, the fundamentals of analytic philosophy is what I'm calling the series. Where I'm going over folks like Bertrand Russell, A.J. Ayer, um, even into von Frossen. I'm reading von Frossen right now, so it's more recent philosophy. It's very rigorous. You know, if you enjoy some of that, then I would also consider giving me a like and subscribe. But I also do videos like this where I try to do thought experiments, give original arguments, that sort of thing. So give me a like and subscribe if you like videos like this too, especially if you like non-duality and that sort of thing. So my name's Eric. Glad you could join me. Join me again next time, and have a good day.